Alright, so the new season of Dana White's Contender Series just happened, season 9. This was week 1. I just finished watching it today. They were in the UFC Apex. There were 5 fights on the docket today. I watched all 5 of them. I'm going to give my review of what happened in each of them, and then a little recap at the end of what I generally thought about the first week. So the first fight to get us going was some middleweight violence. Christopher Ewert. I was calling him Ewert in the past. The W is pronounced like a V. Ewert versus Yuri Panferov. So Yuri came out. Let me just start by saying that Ewert, he was about to step in on short notice to fight with Jackson McVeigh before Bruno Ferreira got that fight at UFC 318. And dude, Ewert is so bad. Jackson McVeigh for sure would have won that fight, but it would have been a trash fight. And McVeigh himself doesn't have like the sharpest skill set, and that's the reason why he got chopped up chicken by Bruno Ferreira. I'm glad we didn't get to see Christopher Ewert put on a UFC Venom kid because it wouldn't have been deserved at all. So yeah, Yuri came out, he was jabbing Evert's head off. He wrestled him freely through round 1. Every single takedown that Yuri shot in this fight, he was able to secure. Panferov, he beat with Calvin Cater, and they had like a video of Calvin Cater saying like, oh yeah, this is my guy. He's always going for the finish. And I guess, yeah, you could say that through 2 rounds at least. Everything kind of changed for Yuri whenever he got caught with this left hook in round 2. And then he recovered though, and he just got back to controlling the fight in the boxing and the wrestling. The only good thing that Yuri was doing in this fight was utilizing the Dagestani handcuff, but he wasn't using to like advance through positions on the ground or to get higher on the back to get to a choke or anything. Even the ground and pound offense, he was just stalling out the fight with the Dagestani handcuff. But it was pure control. Christopher Ewert wasn't able to get up. It was just that nothing was happening. Ewert, he gets beat up for 10 minutes and then his corner says, 5 minutos, hermano. 5 minutos. And that's not what you tell your fighter after he's just been getting whooped for 2 rounds. The thing that made me like 100% certain that nobody was going to get a contract was not how Yuri even reacted to this. It was just the fact that Christopher Ewert had lost 2 rounds. A minute ticks away in the 3rd, and then he does the Max Holloway point. Oh my god. That emote has kind of ruined the game. Dudes, they'll lose 2 rounds now, and then they'll center point with like 4 minutes left on the clock, and it is so cringe. It's only like epic or cool or whatever whenever you're the one who's winning the fight and you do the center point. Because you're up on the cards and you're the one who's risking taking the loss and pointing down to the center of the cage. In the event of Ewert or like Christopher Rodriguez against Andre Fili last week, if they would have actually stood and banged with them whenever they did the Max Holloway point emote, they would have been helping them potentially win. And why would they do that? Yuri, he stayed on the wrestling and won this after the point, which I mean, it was a smart thing to do, I guess, but I would have really liked to see him push for a finish on the ground or in the stand-up a bit more. Nobody got knocked out. This wasn't a very fun fight, and nobody earned a contract here. The next fight was in featherweight. It was Radley de Silva versus George Mangos. Mangos, I think is how you pronounce his name. I just want to say, Mangos! Mangos! De Silva is a Canadian capoeira geek, and they were showing footage of him just like doing like side flips and stuff in his fighter profile video. Mangos, he came out and he was trying to wrestle and he got reversed immediately. I would be really pissed off if I was Radley de Silva in this fight and my opponent came out just trying to initiate a clinch and took me down even. He's got swept. Radley de Silva figured out pretty quickly that he could wrestle this guy, and so he was the one who was going for takedowns halfway through the fight, even whenever it suited him more to try to finish this fight on the feet to get a contract. These guys, they forget where they are sometimes, I feel like, and it's not really their fault. They just don't want to lose. And that survival instinct kicks in, but you gotta knock a dude out in order to get a contract on the Contender Series, bro. Or you gotta like absolutely tie them up on the ground and stun them. Like, they were competitively going through positions, and there were entire rounds that were passing where there were no significant strikes. And they were just doing jujitsu, no gi jujitsu. It was so lame. This was a super trash fight, and the whole time I couldn't really tell if Mangos was good or bad at jujitsu. Because he would get to positions where he could control, and he would lose them attacking subs, and then De Silva would sweep, and then he would get swept. It was a really bad fight. This fight was horrible. No capoeira was done on this day. Not a single punch was thrown for 10 minutes. This was a fight between the #1 Australian featherweight and then the #1 Canadian featherweight on the regional scene. So I didn't like this fight. Dana White didn't like this fight. Again, nobody got a contract here. All right. Yeah, this was the one right here. Come on. This was the fight of all fights that happened tonight. I was very satisfied by this one. And you know what the funniest part is? As I was getting PNGs together for like this entire slideshow here, I found a photo of this Baisangur Susurkaev guy. Really hard to pronounce name as well. And I just laughed at how goofy I thought he looked. Like, look at him. He looks really funny. I feel like we've all met like 4 or 5 different guys who look this way at high school. Like the manager at my gym, he kind of looks like that. And so I was laughing to myself about this. But dude, he's a savage. Oh my god, he's so cool. So this is a Chechen kickboxer. He trains with KHAMZAT CHIMAEV Baisangur. Talha. He's been on the Contender Series before. Let's see what he fought. Yeah, Yeah, so he's lost to Hidalgo Bellotto before. This was like the first good fight of the night. This was one of the only good fights of the night. There was only 2 actual bangers on this entire fight card. Susurkaev, he came out blasting this low kick with his hands down at his waist. He looked like such a gangster this whole time. And he turned Talha into a wrestler immediately. Talha throws a punch or an elbow on the break. That boy Susurkaev goes, "Let's go, brother!" He literally says it audibly. And then he fires a jump knee and it rocks Murtaza. And then he boxes with his hands low for a little bit. And then he sets up like a rear teep kick that he plants perfectly on the liver of Talha. And it makes him crumple. So he one-shot this guy with a body teep kick. And he steps over a turtled up Murtaza as he's like screaming in pain. And all of this happened on 1 week's notice. Dana White got up out of his seat and he was standing ovationing this guy. He deserved it. It was a great performance. He trains out of Killcliff MMA. His story is really cool. He traveled to America with his brother, and he's pursuing MMA, and he fell down on hard times. I mean, not even necessarily hard times. It's just if you want this career path, you're going to have to sacrifice things. Dude was living in his car. Baisangur, like, for sure got a contract, man. Dana White had said, "Thank you for saving my Tuesday," after the last 2 fights. He trains out of Killcliff MMA, I believe. They have another guy named KHAMZAT, and, bro, both of these dudes are sick. They're both Russians. He had a translator there whenever he was getting an interview from Lorosenko, who was glazing him, which, I mean, bro, I'm glazing him too. But he speaks good enough English to be a star already. So the dude wanted to fight in 4 more days as well. He was gesturing this to the camera. What an absolute thug this guy is. He's probably going to have a good career in the UFC, and I'm glad I got to watch him perform on the Contender series. That was absolutely epic. This was actually a pretty good fight here. Ty Miller versus Jimmy Drago at welterweight. Ty Miller is a 2 times Golden Gloves dude. He's a 5-0 guy. Yanni the Greek, he was breaking down this fight, and that guy, he's so clearly reading off something that he didn't write whenever he's giving his betting breakdowns, because he has the same cadence as a guy who just got randomly called for popcorn reading. Good boxing on display from both. Jimmy Drago, he was getting active with his kicks, but if he wanted to win this fight, I think that he should have been more active in throwing teeps up the middle. He was blasting the low kick, and he even hurt Ty Miller, because Ty Miller, he was on crutches at the end of the programming, but Jimmy Drago, he moved away from the low kick, and he suffered for this because he just engaged in a pure boxing match with this Golden Gloves dude, and he was just putting a jab on Jimmy Drago and using it to set up his 3 and also a straight right, which was just landing the entire time. Drago actually had some pretty solid moments, but he displayed a lot of toughness in this fight. I know it's not really much of a compliment, but he did take a few shots that like would have KO'd other people, and he just ate them and kept on boxing, which was pretty cool. There was no takedown defense whatsoever from Miller, so he's got to definitely work on that. But he was tall enough to get up using the cage. I don't know what happens, though, if you put him on his back in the middle of the octagon. Albuquerque, New Mexico is where that boy Ty Miller is from. He trains at a gym out there, and they have some good fighters there in New Mexico. That's one of the places in America that produces some of the best MMA talent historically, and like even now with Steve Garcia coming up out of that area as well. I think that Miller is going to be a fun watch in the UFC. He's tall for 170. They just got to matchmake him properly, or else he might actually get exposed. Dana White saying good job to you after you just won a decision. I mean, like, you ideally want to finish whenever you're on the Contender series as a striker, but if he says, like, good job, that was a nice fight, that probably feels amazing. I was pretty satisfied by this, and I was hoping that every single fight that I watched tonight would be around this quality, but I'll take what I can get. My goodness, this fight, wow. This fight was so bad, wow. Ilian Bouafia versus Neemias Santana. Where do I even start? Santana was getting pieced up, but Bouafia, he couldn't keep his balance whenever he would throw kicks, so whenever he went up high, he would always end up falling, and that would give Santana the ability to take top position in full guard, and he would do that. He couldn't advance through these positions, though, so he got frustrated at one point, and he headbutted Bouafia, and Bouafia looked like he was about to, like, bow out of the fight. I was really surprised whenever he decided that they had to bring, like, the translator over and ask him in French if he wanted to keep fighting, but he put on, like, this big drama show for, like, 3 minutes. It definitely had to have hurt, but I think he just wanted to make sure that everyone acknowledged that a foul was committed against him, because he said he was fine, and then never really, like, touched the eye or reacted to even getting hit in it again afterwards. Ilian, he's clearly a good kickboxer with lots of flexibility and fast leg speed, and also good hands, too. It's just, he didn't want to get knocked out. And Neemias Santana, he didn't want to get knocked out either. But that's the thing about Dana White's Contender series, that you don't really take this slot unless you are of the kill or be killed mentality, because somebody has to get knocked out in order for you to sell yourself, either you or the other guy. And in the featured matchup, which this was, we're expecting a finish. You're a 6'5" Algerian kickboxer who's getting a cosign from Nasruddin Imavov. Like, knock this dude out. Santana was generally more aggressive than Bouafia in this fight, but neither fighter was going for it, and Ilian was just running the entire time. 15 minutes of feinting at range. This was absolute nonsense. Santana got frustrated, and so he started taunting and yelling at Bouafia towards the end of the second round, and then he started walking him down. But this was all for show. The theatrics were going crazy out of Santana because he really wasn't doing anything except for just posturing in this moment. This was probably the worst fight of the night, and it was at the highest position of all 5 of the different bouts that we saw. 4 significant strikes in round 3 from Bouafia. This guy Ilian came all the way from France to fight a perfect stylistic matchup for him as a 6'5" kickboxer, and he put on one of the worst fights that we've ever seen in the Apex. They did take a point from Santana after the headbutt, so there were actually judges' scorecards that were like 30-26, which this fight should have been a draw, because if we're being real with ourselves, Santana did win the 2 rounds after the first. It's just that he got a point taken in the first round, which he also lost, so that should have been a draw. And Dana White even said that was a draw. So yeah, let's give a quick recap of everything. The real MVP was the announcer, not Joe Martinez or Bruce Buffer. This is Justin Bernard, and I'm not mad at him. If he ends up doing more events, he's pretty cool. Dana White is such a butthead, and I love it. He flamed the fighters who put on bad fights. He said, "Don't waste your own time. Aside from like whoever may be here or mine, this opportunity is for you. We only do this once a year. So if you sacrifice to be here, don't waste your own time by just coming here and putting on a trash fight." That's literally what he said. It's crazy. He was reading off the different winners of the fights. The first guy who had won, Yuri, he said, "This is not enough to get you a contract, this performance. Better luck next time, Yuri," were his exact words. And then he roasted Radley De Silva by saying that De Silva looked like he knew that he wasn't going to get a contract and that he's not going to get a contract. But he gets some more wins on another promotion, then come back and try again, which has to feel like 8 pounds of salt in the wound. He gave Ty Miller a contract, which was pretty lit. He did okay too. And then, oh my god, Baisangur is like, this dude's going to take over the game. Maybe not, but he's actually going to put on some really cool fights, and I'm glad that we got a nice introduction with him. It's a shame that Ty Miller did actually sustain an injury. We'll probably get more on that, but hopefully it's not like some type of CL injury that's going to sideline him for a while before he can make his debut, or even change the way that he fights even. Baisangur, he's such a young legend, bro, and he literally said on the mic after he got the contract that he wants to fight in 4 more days. He said, "I'm ready tomorrow." And they said if he can't fight in 4 more days, in like 1 month, he's ready to take a call to fight. So they're going to probably do something with him soon. I rock with Dana White for always keeping it real. This was actually not a bad starting place for getting the wiggles out, because I know that everybody's nervous to be here. It's week 1. I enjoyed getting to watch some fights before Saturday. This is going to be a really nice card that we get to watch in Chicago. My predictions are up right now, so please go watch those. Please do give me a like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you made it to this point. I will catch you in the next upload, my brethren.